All right, so welcome to Yoga for Beginners. Today is our 5th class, 5 out of 8, and today we are introducing Sun Salutations. So for those of you who have joined me in the previous classes or have watched my classes that are on the YouTube playlist for free for everybody to watch, we've been doing some breath work, we've been doing some meditation, mindfulness, we've been doing some gentle movements, everything building up to today when we start working on our Sun Salutations. So why are Sun Salutations so important? So basically, Sun Salutations allow us to bring more strength and mobility to our bodies. So it's not like we're gonna become super strong in just by doing Sun Salutations. We're not gonna beef up as if we were going to the gym, but because of the movements that you will see as we gradually increase and progress the sequence, we will start to feel more strength throughout the body. So the whole sequence of Sun Salutations has been created to be an overall conditioning and lengthening and stretching at the same time. So there's two concepts that we need to remember with Sun Salutations. One of them, there is a sequence where we go up, down, back, and forward. Right now, maybe this doesn't mean much to you, but just remember that the sequence always follows this order: up, down, back, forward, and over again. So this is kind of the base of this sequence of movements, and then we just keep adding onto it, like a sandwich. You could keep putting stuff inside, but basically it's still a sandwich. In this case, it's still up, down, back, and forward. And the second concept or element is there's an expansion, contraction. Expansion, contraction. So everything we do is in that sequence, in that order, in one movement or one exercise, you could call it, or in one pose, we're lengthening, expanding, and the next one we are folding or contracting. And back and forth. So often it's up is lengthen, down is contract, back is lengthen, forward, contract. So ish. Kind of, all right? So it's just a way to understand. So that's like the two main concepts that work throughout the Sun Salutations. Where does the name Sun Salutation come from? Because in India, they realized that early in the morning, when you start doing these exercises and movements, that's the best time for the body to start warming up and also to energize, to start your day more in tune with yourself, better balanced. The joints are freed from tension, so the rest of the day you can just move more freely. So as I said, Sun Salutations can look in many ways. We're going to be practicing the simple, traditional one. And today, because it's an intro to that, we're going to do a floor-based version. And then throughout the next weeks, we're going to be adding on. All right, so before we continue, I just want to say hi to everybody in the room. I'm just going to go in the same order of my screen. Hello, Paul. Good morning. Peru, so wonderful to see you. Doug, so nice you could join us. Casey, namaste. Trevor, namaste. And Dawn, of course, at the studio. So Trevor, if at all possible, if you can open up your camera, that'd be awesome so that I can actually help you modify and give you a little more guidance. But that's really up to you. All right, so for all of you, we are going to start sitting on something high. I have a yoga bolster. You probably don't have a yoga bolster at home. You can use the backrest of your sofa if it's detachable. If not, just bring a pile of cushions to sit on. Whatever is firm. All right, so I'm gonna go back a little bit more so you can start seeing what I'm talking about. The whole idea is that when we sit on it, as you can see, my hips are as high as my knees or higher. So, for example, Bruce, if you are just watching and you're just sitting this out, that's totally fine. But the whole idea is that many of us, when we come to sit, this is what we look like. Why? Because our hips are so tight and our knees just can't go down. So if that's the case, we just bring more and more stuff under our buttocks, under our seat. Boom, now I've got bolster and I have a blanket. All of a sudden, the ratio is knee to hip. The hips are as high or higher. Why is this important? So just look at your knees and look at your hips right now and assess. Do you need more height? Do you need to sit on something a little higher? Your knees and your hips are going to tell you, because if your knees are higher, this is spine going from straight. Knees are high, I'm lifting the knees compared to the hips. My back starts to round. This is very painful, especially for those of us who have herniated discs or degenerative disc disease. I actually have both, unfortunately. So this just makes our spines unhappy. Secondly, if we want to be good yogis, we're trying to lift up and we're trying to find that verticality in the spine. If our knees are higher than our hips, this is a lot of work for your waist, for your core. Just to sit up straight, you're already having to grab your knees. That's why make life easy on yourselves and bring something under your seat until you can sit up straight without it being effortful. So you're gonna notice if you can bring ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips, and just notice that sitting up straight like that, you can even wiggle your arms and your waist to test it. And notice that like this, you could sit and you could even watch a movie because your spine is stacked, because your spine is happy. In that case, we are good to go. All right, so for those of you in class today and those of you watching me as a recording, one of the most important things to learn is spinal alignment and how do we adapt? What kind of props do we bring so that we can keep our spine long in this position and in any other position? All right, so once we have that, we always start. Yes, sorry. Okay, Trevor, no problem. Just follow the class as best as possible. Make sure you're not in pain. If you feel pain at any time, since I can't see Trevor, just make sure you tone it down. A little tension and discomfort is fine when we're stretching, but no pain, please. All right, so we're going to continue by closing our eyes, lengthening the spine, shoulders down, elbows down. Once we're here, even those of you who are not doing the practice and are just watching, just close your eyes. Let's start breathing into the chest, into the ribs, into the belly. And then exhale through the nose, slowly and softly. The whole idea is to start creating a cadence, a breath frequency where the inhales and the exhales are equally long. When we start breathing slowly, we manage to calm the nervous system. It's a little technical, but this nervous system can be divided into the sympathetic and the parasympathetic side. The sympathetic side is the fight or flight, action driven. The parasympathetic is the cooling down, calming, healing, regenerating. Often, because of our busy lives, we're always living in the sympathetic nervous system. So when we breathe slowly, especially the exhales, when we lengthen them, we calm the sympathetic and we start toning or triggering the parasympathetic side of the nervous system to calm us down. So just breathe naturally, keeping a long spine, ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips, hands are relaxed over your thighs or your knees. This is how we always start class, by cleaning the slate, finding ourselves, by calming the minds. When we calm the nervous system, we calm the heartbeat. When we calm the heartbeat and the nervous system, the mind also calms down. Few more breaths here, just noticing your breath. Equal inhales to exhales. Just notice also how this just calms your body. You feel more relaxed. You feel more in tune with yourself. When we keep our breaths deep, we also prevent from going into sleepy mode. If all of a sudden you start making your breath very shallow, even if it's equal inhales to exhales, shallow breaths can also make us a little too sleepy. So make sure you're doing your deep inhales and equally long exhales. That's going to keep you in this balance. We call that homeostasis, where we feel this balance, energetic balance, nervous system balance. All right, from here, we're going to start warming up the body before we start the sun salutations. So look at me. Inhale, lift the shoulders towards the ears. The spine is still long. Nothing has changed. Exhale, roll your shoulders and shoulder blades backwards. And then exhale the shoulders down. Inhale the arms and the shoulders forward to expand the shoulder blades. Continue inhaling shoulders to ears. Exhale, start rounding the shoulders back. Exhale completely, shoulders down. Now close your eyes and just do this. Just don't think about it, just feel it as you breathe and you move your shoulders, shoulder joints in circles. They're probably not perfect circles, and that's totally okay. We just start to work how we combine movement, breath, and mindfulness. Inhale, shoulders up. Exhale, shoulders down. And start noticing if one of your shoulders starts to feel a little more tense than the other. So this is a self-study practice. As we breathe, as we move, we start making mental notes of what feels tight. As we practice this self-study, we're able to later modify our practice, our sun salutation practice, to make sure we're respecting and honoring our bodies. All right, next time you bring your shoulders down, we're going to switch the direction of the circles. This time, inhale, shoulders and shoulder blades back. Then, top of the breath, shoulders up. Exhale, shoulders forward and down. Continue like this. So this is a great way to really combine those three elements that we practice in yoga: the breath, the movement, and the mindfulness. That's what makes yoga practice yoga and not just stretching or calisthenics, because we combine all three. Equally important. One more circle. All right, so just make a mental note. Which shoulder felt a little tighter? Just to make, you can honor that later and make sure that we are practicing safely. All right, keep your hands on your knees. We're gonna inhale deeply, lengthen the spine. Exhale, bring your chin to chest. Spine didn't round, it's just the chin to chest. And we continue to lengthen the back of the neck away from the base of the neck, so we're not overstretching. This is how we protect our spine from injury, by keep lengthening the back of the neck and the crown of the head away from the shoulders as you bring your chin to chest, any amount, not forcing it, maybe 50%. Lower your shoulders, everybody lower your shoulders as you keep your chin to chest and back of the neck is long and spacious. We're gonna breathe here. Again, breath and mindfulness. Deep inhales, complete exhales. One more time, at your own pace. Feel it. All right, from here, we're going to roll the right ear to the right shoulder. Any amount, keep your shoulders down, make sure sideways, spine is still long. We're just bending the neck sideways, lifting the chin a little bit on the diagonal and lengthen the back of the neck again so we're not overstretching. There's always this upward directionality of the neck, of the head, to protect ourselves. Keep lowering your shoulders towards the floor as you lengthen the back of the neck away from the shoulders. We breathe here again. Notice what's going on. Self-study in yoga. We call this 𝗬𝗙𝗴𝗂. We practiced and we explained 𝗬𝗙𝗂 in previous episodes. If you want to know more about it, just revisit the last episodes of this series. Few more breaths. Keep breathing deeply. Make sure you're not forcing, that this feels natural to you. Exhale. Inhale. Keep lengthening the head away from the shoulders. On the next exhale, bring chin to chest and then roll the left ear to left shoulder. Spine is still long, shoulders down. Bringing the ear to shoulder any amount as you keep lengthening the head away from the shoulders. Deep inhales. Complete exhales. Feeling that opening on the side of the neck from the ear to the shoulder. Shoulder away from the ear. We're lengthening. As we said in previous episodes, in previous classes, in every class, in every pose, we want to lengthen. Spaciousness is our friend. Lengthening is our friend. Few more breaths here. Keep lengthening, noticing patiently how those muscles start to release some of that tension. All right, exhale, chin to chest. Inhale, lift the chin up. All right, so we've done a little bit of the necks and the shoulders. We're going to start warming up the spine. We always do this at the beginning of class. All right, so we're doing cats and cows. We did that last week, and every other week since the beginning, since episode number 1, we've been doing cats and cows. If you are new to cats and cows, looks like on the inhale, we lift the chin, we broaden the chest, we bring the shoulders back, we arch the spine gently, and we lift the tailbone backwards. So this is what it looks like. I'm only lifting my chin enough to feel a stretch in my throat and front of the neck without crunching, without it feeling overwhelming or painful at the back of the neck. So you decide how high you lift your chin before it becomes a little jarring or uncomfortable. That's called a cow. And then we round the spine, chin to chest, belly in, lift the tailbone forward and up, shoulders forward, broadening the shoulder blades away from each other. We call this a cat. And then we move on the breath, inhale into cow. Really notice the activation of the entire spine, broaden the chest, belly out, top of the breath. Exhale, round the spine, belly in, shoulders forward, tailbone forward and up. Really pull that navel in to activate your core. So we're starting to warm up the core. And we continue like this a few more times on the breath. Inhale, forward, feel the clavicle, the collarbone broadening, the chest broadening, belly broadens. Exhale. Pull the belly in, shoulder blades forward. Feel the stretch in the back of the leg. And continue like that on your own, few more times. Noticing how you're gaining a little more mobility with every breath, with every round. We're warming up the entire spine, the vertebrae, the discs between the vertebrae, the fascia, which is that lining that covers it all, covers the muscles, it covers the organs. And we are lubricating our spine because with every joint, when we move our joints back and forth, our body starts to produce that lubricant called synovial fluid that makes our joints move swiftly, gently. We have less wear and tear because everything is better lubricated. All right, one more time, really feel it. And as we said before, remember there is this element of expansion or lengthening and contraction. So here, when we expand one side, we're contracting the opposite side. And so forth. We contract the front to expand the back in a cat, and we are contracting the back to expand the front in a cow. So again, we're practicing this idea of pose, counterpose, or expand and contract. All right, coming back into stillness. Way to warm up the spine. Even if you're not going to do a full yoga class, asana class we call it, just doing what we just did every morning is already a great way to start your day. So even just that, some neck rolls and some spine cats and cows, you can already feel that you've warmed up. You roll out of bed and you're a little tight. This already makes it so much better. All right, so from here we're going to start moving into Sun Salutations on the floor. All right, so this is in preparation for. I just ask you to all look at me first before you start practicing anything. So I'm gonna show you what this looks like. All right, so the first pose is a child's pose where we're going to bring our big toes together, knees wide, and we're gonna start sitting up, and we start to lift walk the hands towards you if you need to, and then you start to lift the hands up. All right, so here we're trying to bring our hips above our knees, and we're trying to lengthen the spine, reach our arms up, hands together as in a prayer. And then exhale, come back. Forward, hugging my elbows into my side ribs, I come onto the floor. From here, directly lift the forehead, the head, the shoulders, and the chest. We call this baby cobra. We bring the forehead back down. We use our arms to press the floor down and away like a reverse half push-up. We bring our hips. Lift the arms up, reach up. We call this a high prayer. Exhale, sitting on. Coming onto the floor, bring chest and forehead down. Then on the inhale, we lift the forehead, the chest, the shoulders. We call this a baby cobra. We press the floor away to come to sit on. So, those of you who are ready to, all right, so my audio gets cut off. All right, I'm gonna be a little more careful. Thank you, Casey. All right, so let's all start in a child's pose. All right. So child's pose means, okay, another thing before you proceed. It's a great idea to pad your knees. So if you have sensitive knees, we definitely don't want to practice this on hard floor. So we either want a yoga mat or yoga mat and a towel or something to keep your knees happy. All right, so bring your toes together, knees apart, and then expand your arms as forward as possible. This should be a resting. Just to notice what this feels like. So keep lengthening the arms forward. Finding that distance of the knees, that spreading of the knees that allows you to bring your chest and your belly a little closer to the floor. So you're getting an ankle stretch, a knee stretch, a hip stretch. There's a pretty good stretch throughout your body, and of course, a spine and spinal muscle stretch. From child's pose, press up into tabletop. Walk your hands towards you, and now start using your core to lift your chest and your arms, to lift your arms all the way towards the ceiling, top of the breath. And exhale again into tabletop. Back to tabletop. Start bending your elbows and sliding forward. Yes, we're using our arms a lot there. Untuck your toes. Now lift the forehead off the floor, then the shoulders and the chest. Go easy on you. Doesn't have to be super high. Exhale, forehead to floor. Keep your knees on the floor, shoulders away from the ears. Hug the elbows into the side ribs as you press up. Half push-up through tabletop, and then to help, then lift the arms, then lift the chest. We're trying to create a straight line. Arms, shoulder, hips, and knees. Lift up, reach up, top of the breath. Exhale, back down. Tabletop, then bend your elbows down as you bring your chest back onto the floor, flying flat. Forehead down, untuck the toes. Inhale, lift the forehead, the chest, the shoulders, feel the back muscles activate, top of the breath. Exhale, forehead down, and start to press the floor down. Reverse push-up through tabletop. Arms up, high prayer, strong line, hands, shoulders, hips, knees. Exhale, hands. Top. Start to bend your elbows, shoulders away from the ears as you lower down, half push-up. Forehead down. Lift the head on the inhale, top of the breath, shoulders up. Exhale, forehead down. Inhale, press the floor up, and then exhale through tabletop. Lift the arms up, high prayer. Lift up, high prayer. Exhale, child. Once again, everybody's looking great. Inhale up to tabletop. Exhale, start to bend your elbows and bring all the way down, forehead down, hug those elbows into the ribs. Inhale, baby cobra. Lift the head, the shoulders, and the chest. Press back up into tabletop and then child's pose. And just, all right, let's take a breather here. Just breathe, relax. Notice your back relaxing, your arms. Notice your heartbeat. Deep inhales. Complete exhales. Really notice your lower back lengthening, your forehead relaxed, your neck relaxed on the floor. And slowly press back up. And we're going to meet again on a cross-legged seat because I just want to hear any questions that you might have. This is a workshop of sorts, so I want to be able to answer your questions or any remarks, because we're going to go again and repeat some of these, but we're going to go even slower and deeper to explain the anatomy and the why we're doing each one. But I want to hear you guys first in case anybody has any questions or doubts or remarks. This didn't feel right, this felt difficult. So in any order, if anybody wants to share what this felt like. For some of you, this was the first time you ever do this, so please open up your microphones and ask any questions if you have. So typically we want to practice this on the breath. So on the inhale, you move into a pose. On the exhale, you move into the next pose. On the inhale, next pose, exhale. So it's really depending on your breath. So we can count in terms of breaths, and that would be on each breath. However, some of these poses, like the initial one, child's pose, you could do that for minutes because it's just so good for the knee stretch, the hip stretch, the lower back stretch. So some of them can be held for a long time. So as you can see, some of them are easier than others because there is the up, down, back, and forward, and some of them are more engaging, muscle engaging, and others are more resting. For example, the initial one, child's pose, is a resting pose. It's a stretching and pose. Sorry, there's something funny with my microphone. I apologize for that. I don't know what's wrong. I hope you haven't been hearing that crackling throughout the class, have you? Yes? Oh no. All right, maybe it's time that I need a new microphone, a new wireless microphone set. All right, we're going to be working on that. So, for example, baby cobra, when we come forward into baby cobra and we're lifting the chest, that's definitely a muscle engaging pose because we're using our back muscles and not so much our arms to lift the chest up. All right, when we're coming down into baby cobra or pushing away from baby cobra, it's definitely we're using our shoulders, our arms, and our chest for that. It's like a half push-up, you know, because our knees are down. So definitely there, that's a more power-focused or a muscle-focused pose. So ideally, you want to practice this on the breath. Any other questions? You're good? All right. So we're going to practice them again, one by one. So as we start in child's pose, we're going to fine-tune it. Now that you've done it, we're going to fine-tune it. So here, many of us in child's pose,
we bring our elbows out. Sometimes, we're just not getting the maximum out of this pose. So the better or the more you can straighten your arms and walk your fingertips forward, the more length and stretch you're going to start to feel in the shoulder and the shoulder blade area. All right, so just be mindful that even sometimes our shoulders are a little bit in pain, or there's some inflammation, so you want to be easy on that. But as long and as much as your body allows, keep stretching, walking your fingertips forward, and feel the opening of the shoulder blades upwards, as much as bringing and allowing your belly and your hips to come closer to your heels. And once you've done that, we have two versions. We have the passive relaxed version, where you just let go and you bring your elbows onto the floor and you just relax in this version of the pose. Or we can make it more active by pressing the floor down and away to push our body backwards. This lifts the elbows off the floor and it brings your hips a little closer to your heels. This is the active version. Our shoulders are engaged, our arms are engaged, we're pushing ourselves backwards. This is the active version of a child's pose. So just play around with both versions and see how they feel. When you relax your elbows down, it's more passive, you're more relaxed. It's just about the relaxation and the stretching. When you straighten, activate your shoulders and push the floor actively away to bring your body backwards, there you start to strengthen the shoulder muscles and you get an even deeper stretch in the lower back. So just play around with both for a few breaths in each one and notice the benefits of both. When you're very tired, when you've been doing a lot of sun salutations over and over and over again, and you need a breather, you want to do the more relaxing passive one with your elbows down. Or the contrary, once you're warmed up, whether if you push yourself backwards, you're gonna get that bonus extra stretch in the lower back. All right, and then slowly everybody from child's pose, walk your hands in towards you. Come to sit on your heels if that's available to you. Otherwise, keep your hands down. All right, now we're gonna practice the other version of child's pose, which is child's pose with knees wide is what we just practiced. Let's bring our knees in and do the same thing with our knees together or together-ish. Bring your hands forward and start to fold. Notice all of a sudden you've got the thighs against the ribs. Then you relax the forehead. We don't want our foreheads to hang, so if your forehead doesn't touch the floor, just because you've got a big rib cage or you've got a belly like me, then you want to bring something under your head, such as a block or a blanket or something, and then relax the arms. So this version is more difficult for many of us because it's not easy to breathe. When you've got your front torso, chest, and belly being compressed, we can feel this almost like a suffocation. This is where we start. The reason why we practice this version is because it stretches our lower back even more so. If you want a deeper lower back stretch, this is it. But we need to learn how to breathe towards the side ribs and to the back ribs. So now let's start practicing breathing your chest as a balloon. So you're breathing towards the side ribs and into your back. All of a sudden you gain some range in your chest cavity. So instead of breathing forward like we typically do, we start to breathe sideways and towards the back. Even feel the space between the shoulder blades broadening with every inhale. You're able to breathe towards the back, and all of a sudden it feels a little less intense or suffocating because we're learning how to breathe towards the sides.
This is yogi's choice. You always have the choice to breathe, to keep your knees together or your knees apart. So you decide what works for you. All right, so press back up again. All right, and we're going to come into a high prayer. So the second one that we come up is high prayer. But how we come into a high prayer is the key here. From tabletop, we got to engage the core and bring our hips back a little bit so we've got enough balance and core to slowly start coming up. We don't want to round our spine, so look at me. We don't want to round your spine. This is very jarring. This is potentially injurious. So we want to come up with a flat back so we're using the legs and our hips. So for some of us, this might be easy, and then lift the hips up. Others, we have to walk our hands much more closer towards our knees to lift our chest up with our hands, and then from here we lift up. So you decide whether you go hands up all the way from the front of the mat, or you walk them towards you, that's gonna lift your chest up. Then from there, you start to lift up. All right, so practice, play around with both versions. If hands forward, this is a lot of work and you start to round your spine, you know that you need to walk your hands towards you. You don't have to look like your neighbor. You don't have to look like me. You have to do you. Just make sure that you're coming up with a flat spine, that you're not rounding your lumbar spine, because for many of us, that just aggravates, that just makes our lower back hurt even more. So obviously when your core is stronger, it's going to be easier to lift the arms from the front of the mat and then bring hips over knees. All right, Dawn? So from here, as you're walking, bringing your hips back, immediately as you lift your hands, you want to start lifting the chest, but bringing the hips forward. Can you notice all the muscles that you're using in your core, the hips, the back, and then in reverse. Let's all practice that one more time. Being mindful, we're breathing, keeping a long spine, and then slowly come up. So you can notice all the muscles that you're using. Keep hips up, hips over knees, hips over knees. And then back down. All right, we've done this a number of times. I can feel it. I'm sure you can feel it too. Let's take a breather in child's pose. This is the counter pose. We just used our back muscles and our hips, our core. We come into a wide-kneed child's pose to release and relax the back. And we breathe. So again, here we have options. How wide your knees are, how wide you bring your knees is up to you. When you bring your knees very wide, you're opening your hips more. When you bring your knees in towards each other, you get a deeper lower back stretch. So breathe here. You can make it passive by relaxing your elbows down. You can make it active by pushing the floor away to bring your body backwards. You've got choices. Isn't this wonderful? We don't all have to do the same thing. Yoga is not a cookie cutter practice. We have to learn how to practice for our own condition, our own needs. That's the real yoga, not looking like Instagram. It's about doing you. You do you. That's the true yogi. You do you safely, mindfully, knowing proper alignment, basic alignment, but not trying to copy somebody else. All right, so we've reviewed different variations of child's pose. This time, you're all gonna bring your arms backwards.
So keep child's pose, but instead of keeping your arms forward, start to bring your arms towards your feet. Keep your forehead on the floor or a block, and then bring your elbows out enough to feel that opening in the shoulder blades. So here, we're rotating our shoulders internally. This is called an internal rotation. Just let the elbows drop towards the floor. There you go, Doug. Once you let the elbows come close to the floor or towards the floor, you start feeling that rotation in the shoulder joint, the cuff. And breathe. This really feels really good because so many of us have tight shoulders, but what's really tight is the shoulder rotator cuff. So by bringing the elbows down towards the floor, we're stretching so many of the shoulder muscles and the shoulder girdle, which includes the shoulder blade. And we breathe. So Bruce, you're not on the floor, you're on the chair. Just bring your hands behind your back, like I am, and bring your elbows forward, shoulders down. To lengthen the spine, so whether you're on a chair or you're on the floor, you can always get this stretch by bringing your spine completely vertical, shoulders down, and then elbows forward. Can you feel that? But you can't be leaning onto your sofa bed. You have to sit up straight. Just sit up straight. Make sure that your spine is long and spacious, and then you can do this more easily. But that's okay. You decide what you do. All right, everybody. So let's workshop how we go up and down into half push-up, or we call it chaturanga. In yoga, this is called chaturanga. All right, so everybody press back up. Let me show you. So we just went up. We just came back down, child's pose. From here, we extend the arms forward. We lift the hips to come into tabletop. Then we start bending the elbows and bringing our weight forward because we're trying to come onto our bellies, but we're hugging the elbows onto our chest and then bring our chest and belly down. So again, I'm going to show you that again. Important to keep your shoulders away from the ears. A lot of people, they start bending their elbows, but they're sinking into their shoulders. We want to bring our shoulders away from the ears like we did at the beginning of the class, and then start bringing your elbows in towards you as you bring your weight forward, then hugging the biceps and the elbows into the side ribs. Let me show you frontally. So when we're coming in, a lot of people, they come in, their shoulders are up and their elbows are wide. This is kind of like how they taught us to do push-ups in school, I guess. But this is very risky for our shoulder joints. We want to engage the entire shoulder girdle, including the shoulder blade, to protect us. So this is the yogic way to do the push-up, which we call chaturanga. So first of all, we bring the elbows in. So much that I'm like really pressing my biceps, my elbows into the ribs. Secondly, instead of keeping my shoulders towards the ears, I'm really bringing the shoulders as far down as possible. So just take like a snapshot, a mental snapshot of this. This is how you're gonna come down from tabletop as you come onto your chest and belly. So let's practice that again. All right, so from tabletop, start to bring your weight forward, shoulders away from the ears very actively. Start bending your elbows, hugging biceps and elbows really tight against your ribs as you come all the way down. And bring your forehead onto the floor. Keep your hands, their hands are probably going to be under your shoulders now. Keep your shoulders away from the ears. Lengthen the spine and lift the head, the shoulders, and the chest. This is baby cobra. So make sure you're not really using your arms to lift. You're using your spine to lift.
This is not an arm workout. This is a back muscle workout.
Exhale, forehead to floor. And the reverse chaturanga, the reverse push-up, is exactly the same. Shoulders away from the ears. Hug those elbows in tightly into the rib as you start to push the floor away from you, straightening the arms, lifting the hips back to tabletop, and then directly into child's pose. All right, so let's all practice that very slowly, very mindfully. As you come forward to tabletop, shoulders away from the ears, start hugging the elbows into the ribs as you lower down. Very nice, Doug. Very nice, Paul. Casey, looking great. Hug those elbows in. Inhale, baby cobra. Lift head, shoulders, chest. It's really the back muscles working. Exhale, the forehead down. Keep your shoulders away from the ears as you press the floor up. Reverse chaturanga, reverse push-up. Hug those elbows in. Tabletop, child's pose. All right. Well, then let's just hold the child's pose. Breathe, make it passive as we come and reach the end of the class. Few breaths here, just noticing your body. After doing these sun salutations, you probably feel the heat, the energy, the prana running through the body. This mindfulness of your state right now compared to when we first started class. Noticing probably your shoulders, your triceps, your core. They're talking to you because you just use them, you just move them, engage them. All right, and slowly press back up, lift the chest. And now you can swing your legs around and forward. Come to sit where we started, sitting on something to lift your hips higher than your knees. All right, so let's hear out any questions, any remarks, if any. Just raise your hand if you have a question or something that you didn't understand very properly. Feel free to open up your mic. No? All right, all good. Okay, so we always start class sitting upright, always or mostly always, almost always. Again, we finish class the same way. The whole idea of finishing class in this more meditative pose is for us to acknowledge, recognize, be aware of the changes, the shifts that have happened in our body throughout the practice today. We bring our hands together at heart center, lengthen the spine, ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips, top of the breath. Exhale, chin to chest, shoulders down. And we body scan, noticing the sensations, the most obvious and the more subtle sensations. Our yoga practice helps us to lengthen, to remove tightness, tension, physical and energetic blockages. Helps us to become stronger, more resilient, calming our minds and reconnecting our bodies, minds, and spirits. And by doing all of this, we bring more ease into our lives and less dis-ease. Can become a better version of ourselves, can become a little closer to our true higher self. So namaste to you all. Thank you, Dawn, for coming to class at the studio. Thank you,